Standalone fantasy can be the fastest way to fall back in love with the genre. You get a complete emotional arc, a finished ending, and a world that feels whole without a long commitment. This video is a practical map for choosing the right kind of standalone. Some are cozy and fairy tale-like. Some are literary and slow-burning. Some feel like epic series compressed into one book. I will group the picks by reading mood, then give you a simple decision rule at the end. All of these work as one-book experiences, even when an author later writes related material. If you want to buy one fantasy book today and actually finish it, this is the path. A good standalone also teaches you what you like. If you enjoy atmosphere first, you will lean toward lyrical writing and vivid places. If you enjoy momentum, you will prefer clean plots and clear stakes. If you enjoy ideas, you will want mythic themes and strange concepts. While I mention a few comparisons, I avoid plot details. The goal is decision clarity for first-time fantasy readers and for people who keep abandoning long series. Use the chapters as a menu. Start with the mood that matches your current energy. Then save the rest for later, because standalones are perfect for building a steady reading habit. One more note before the picks. Standalones are not a lesser form. Many of the most memorable fantasy worlds were built for a single book. If you are overwhelmed by fandom arguments about required reading, ignore them. Choose one book that matches your mood and finish it. Completion builds confidence, and confidence makes every later series easier. The Night Circus. Erin Morgenstern. A dreamlike romantic fantasy set inside a traveling circus that appears without warning. Focused on atmosphere, wonder, and quiet page-turning rather than combat. The writing is sensory and patient. It rewards slow reading and quiet attention. If you usually bounce off fantasy because it feels like homework, this one often works because the language does the heavy lifting for you. You do not need to track long family trees or invented vocabulary. You mainly follow the feel of the circus and the way each chapter adds a new room to explore. This is also a strong pick if you want romance in the background without turning into a genre checklist. The best way to approach it is to let the scenes wash over you. Do not rush for answers. If you finish and want more in the same mood, look for other standalones that lead with atmosphere rather than battle strategy. For many readers, this becomes a comfort reread because the setting stays vivid even when you remember the shape of the story. Stardust, Neil Gaiman. A classic fairy tale adventure with gentle danger set across an ordinary village and a strange magical realm built for readers who want charm and momentum. This is one of the cleanest entry points into fairy tale fantasy for adults. The sentences are simple and the story moves with classic folklore logic. That makes it easy to finish even in short reading sessions. You will get charm, danger, and humor, but it stays light on lore. If you like the idea of fantasy but dislike long training sequences, prophecy talk, or constant map reading, this is a good correction. It also works well as a gift book because it fits many tastes. When you read it, notice how the book handles wonder as something ordinary people stumble into. If you want a similar experience afterward, you can explore more modern fairy tale retellings or other gentle quest stories. It is also a good reminder that fantasy can be light on exposition and still feel complete. If you are choosing one book to restart reading, this is low risk. If you are unsure what kind of fantasy you like, this is a good baseline. After you finish, you can decide whether you want darker, weirder, or more epic next. The Last Unicorn. Peter S. Beagle. A lyrical, bittersweet quest fantasy that reads like a modern myth, set in storybook landscapes and taverns. Ideal when you want beauty and emotion. This book reads like a myth that learned how to be funny. The prose is musical, but it stays clear. You can follow it even if you have not read much fantasy. It is a great choice when you want something short that still feels deep. The emotional effect is real, but it earns it through tone rather than shock. If you enjoy stories that feel timeless, this is one of the strongest single-volume picks in the genre. Many readers come away wanting to underline lines and reread sections. That is the sign you are in the right book for your current mood. If you normally prefer literary fiction, this is a safe bridge into fantasy because the writing carries the weight. It also shows how fantasy can talk about loss and hope without becoming cynical. Read it slowly and let the images settle, then decide what style you want next. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Susanna Clarke. An alternate history fantasy where English magic returns, set in Regency-era society and academic salons, best for readers who enjoy wit and slow-burn tension. This is a long standalone, but it is still one complete story. The pleasure here is texture. The book pretends it is a historical document, complete with footnotes that expand the world in small, precise ways. If you like slow-burn tension and social observation, it feels closer to classic literature than modern action fantasy. The pacing is deliberate. Plan to read in chunks and let the voice do its work. A good strategy is to treat it like a prestige miniseries in book form. If you find yourself losing track, do not worry about every reference. The main reading experience is mood, wit, and the sense that magic has rules and consequences. When you finish, you will know whether you like dense world-building that stays elegant. If you love Austen or Dickens-style social worlds, you may enjoy this more than battle-driven fantasy. It is a rare standalone that feels scholarly but still entertaining. American Gods. Neil Gaiman. A contemporary myth fantasy with road trip energy set across small-town America and liminal spaces, designed for readers who like ideas and eerie atmosphere. This is fantasy for readers who enjoy ideas and strange atmospheres more than tidy rule systems. It blends myth, modern life, and a drifting road trip structure. That structure can feel episodic, which many readers like because it creates natural stopping points. If you want a standalone that feels adult without being grim, this often fits. The best mindset is to read for imagery and theme. Let the book raise questions about belief, identity, and culture, then move on. If you are new to Gaiman, this is a major statement of his style. If you finish and want something lighter, you can switch to a more comedic standalone. If you want something tighter, pick a shorter fairy tale-shaped novel next. Either way, this one teaches you whether mythic modern fantasy is your lane. It is also useful as a compass book. If the mythic tone works for you, you can confidently explore more urban fantasy and modern folklore. The Priory of the Orange Tree, Samantha Shannon, a modern epic fantasy with dragons and politics, set across multiple courts and cultures, for readers who want big scope and a complete ending. If you usually read series because you want scope, this is the standalone that can replace that habit. It has political tension, dragon myth, and multiple viewpoints, but it keeps the arc contained in one volume. The main benefit is satisfaction. You get the feeling of finishing a big story without waiting years for sequels. Because it is long, set expectations. Read it like an epic, not like a thriller. The writing is accessible and modern. That makes it easier than older epics for many newer readers. If you are choosing between this and a long series, pick this when you want a complete experience and you do not want to track dozens of subplots across multiple books. Afterward, you can decide whether you want more dragon fantasy or whether you want a smaller, intimate standalone next. This is also one of the better picks for readers who want inclusive modern fantasy without sacrificing classic epic stakes. It aims for closure, not endless continuation. Good Omens. Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. A funny, warm apocalyptic fantasy, set in modern England with everyday settings, perfect when you want sharp satire and a story that stays kind. The tone is playful, but the craft is serious. You get jokes, but also structure and warmth. It is a great standalone when you need a palate cleanser after heavy books. The pages move quickly because the chapters are short, and the voice is conversational without being sloppy. If you worry that fantasy always means made-up languages and battle plans, this book is the counterexample. It is set in the modern world and focuses on people being people. One tip is to read it when you can laugh. The humor lands best when you are not exhausted. If you like it, you can explore more comic fantasy or satirical speculative fiction. But this book works perfectly on its own. It is also a rare recommendation that fits both fantasy readers and non-fantasy readers. If you are buying fantasy for someone skeptical, this is often the safest recommendation because it reads like a smart comedy first and fantasy second. The Princess Bride, William Goldman. A playful swashbuckling fairy tale, set in a storybook Europe like World of Duels and daring escapes, great for readers who want humor and heart. This is a fast read with a big legacy. It mixes adventure, romance, and comedy in a voice that feels like a story being told to you. As a standalone, it is almost ideal. You can read it in a weekend and still feel like you visited a whole world. It is also a smart pick if you want fantasy adjacent rather than high magic. The fantasy element is the fairy tale structure and the heightened tone. If you are trying to get back into reading, short chapters and clear scenes help. This book has both. Many readers use it as a bridge between classic adventure stories and modern fantasy. If you finish and want more, look for other humorous standalones that respect the reader. The key is that it delivers pleasure without requiring any franchise knowledge. Because it is so readable, it is great for audio as well. The structure keeps you oriented, so even casual listeners can follow along without effort. Uprooted, Naomi Novik. A dark woods fairy tale-inspired fantasy, set on the edge of an ancient forest in a small valley community, for readers who like intimate magic. This is a standalone that feels like a folk tale told with modern intensity. The setting centers on a dangerous forest in a nearby human community. The magic is intimate and messy. It is not a rulebook system that makes the reading experience emotional and vivid. If you like stories where place matters, this is a strong pick. The landscape is almost a character. The book also rewards readers who want a complete arc without cliffhangers. A practical tip is to read it when you can sink into atmosphere. The first stretch sets tone more than it delivers action. If you finish and want another standalone with fairy tale DNA, look for books that combine folklore with character-driven stakes. This one is often recommended to readers who liked mythic stories but want sharper pacing. It is also a good test for whether you enjoy magic that feels emotional and personal. If you do, you will probably like other character-first standalones with folklore roots. The Goblin Emperor, Catherine Addison. A court intrigue fantasy that is kind at heart, set in an imperial palace full of ceremony. Ideal if you want politics without grimness. This is the comfort pick for readers who like political stories but do not want cruelty on every page. The tension comes from etiquette, institutions, and how a decent person navigates power. If you have ever wanted court intrigue without grimdark, start here. The names and titles can look intimidating at first. Give it a few chapters and your brain will adapt. The book is designed to teach you as you go. It is also a rare fantasy where kindness is treated as a strength. That makes the emotional payoff feel clean. If you finish and want more stories like it, look for character-focused fantasy that uses politics as a backdrop rather than a battlefield. As a standalone, it leaves you satisfied without dangling a sequel hook. Many readers use it as a reset after darker fantasy. It proves that tension can come from responsibility and choice, not only violence or betrayal. If you usually avoid political books because they feel exhausting, this one is a gentle entry. It focuses on learning a role, understanding people, and staying grounded.